This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'd like to call the Village of Ephraim Board meeting to order. Welcome. It is Tuesday, August 11, 2026 at 7 p.m. And Brent, we have a quorum?
We do, Ken.
Thank you. Any changes in the agenda?
No changes.
All right. Then we'll go with visitors' comments, either people here or online, or if you'd rather wait till your topic comes up, but I'd welcome any comments you might have now. Okay, hearing none. Next, we have approval of previous minutes. I have two sets of minutes we have to approve.
I move to approve the July 14th, 2026 regular board meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you, Carly. Thank you, Matt. Any corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you.
I move to approve the July 28th, 2026 special board meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Carly and Matt. Any changes or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes passed. Number 6, president's comments. I have no comments. All right, number 7, consent agenda items. Can I have a motion to approve consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Carly and Matt. Any comments?
Yeah, I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Then with that, the rest, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and one abstain. They are approved. Number 8, administration. A, presentation of annual report from Destination Door County and Door County Tourism Zone. And I see we have Josh and Juliana with us. So Juliana, you going to kick off or? And we have no one taking notes, so you need to turn on that mic. It'll go green. It's the button all the way at the bottom that's probably in red right now, a little microphone feature. There it is.
Perfect. Okay.
And then speak loudly so we can understand the recordings.
Will
Thank you.
do. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for having us again to talk about what we are doing. My name is Juliana Hawley. I am the Executive Director for the Door County Tourism Zone. And of course, the tourism zone, our primary responsibilities are the collection and remittance of room tax in Door County for approximately 1,640 permit holders on a monthly basis. And we are responsible for distributing the room tax in accordance with Wisconsin State Statute 66.0615. And in accordance with our entity agreement and Door County room tax ordinance. So 30% goes directly to the Village of Ephraim and 70% up to the budgeted amount goes to Destination Door County. And John, the Destination Door County CEO, will be talking a bit more about that in just a moment. We also follow the statute when it comes to our board composition. And I've enjoyed and appreciated getting the perspective that Ken and Matt have on the commission, as well as Missy Lavelle. So just talking a little bit, there was a section that was included in the packet with just some statistics specifically for the Village of Ephraim. We are also in the process of, on Thursday, we're going to be confirming our June numbers, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about those, some of the trends that we're kind of seeing. So we have passed our June deadline for reporting, and I have great news for the Village of Ephraim. So far this year, your total room tax collections are up 11%. And that is actually compared to 4.67% for the County of Door. As a whole, this year, your June average daily rate specifically was up $33. And although your rented units were down a little bit, it was about 434 units in total for the month. Your lodging revenue increase was about $240,000. So we have had some questions this year about comparisons as we've gone around the different municipalities. Some of the municipalities have had concerns about fluctuations with occupancy. So we have had a bit of a decrease when it comes to overall occupancy. A portion of that is because there are some properties where we're seeing a shift from more traditional lodging stays to more cottage, cabin, and home stays. So those, the number of nights that are rented for those types of properties has been increasing at a more significant rate. And we do not track the maximum occupancy for those property types. So it doesn't mean that there are fewer people that are coming into Door County. It just means that they may be shifting to a different property type that they're utilizing, or going to a property type where they can fit more people into a single room or a single property. Another couple things that I wanted to highlight is that June is really our first big indicator of how lodging is going for the year because of how unpredictable it can be with the weather. I'm sure you all remembered March and how much fun that was. But we do have a lot more fluctuation, and we have a lot of properties, particularly in northern Door County, that are not open at all until May, until the end of May in particular. So that can cause more significant fluctuations. So when we have concerns from lodging providers or from the public, when we get calls about that, we just like to remind people that if we're working with fewer properties, those fluctuations are bound to happen. For when considering your revenue, the closest comparative municipality that we have for Ephraim is the city of Sturgeon Bay. So although the city of Sturgeon Bay and the village of Ephraim have revenues that are fairly similar, they do have significantly different compositions when it comes to the properties that are available and the timelines for that. So for example, the village of Ephraim primarily, it won't be a surprise to anyone, but primarily gets most of its room tax June through October for the season. And currently for June of 2026, for example, Ephraim's average daily rate was $83 higher than the city of Sturgeon Bay. And you also carry a 12% higher occupancy rate. But the city tends to have a more even distribution of its occupancy. So one of the things that often gets mentioned is whether or not municipalities are interested in having more year-round tourism or are interested in keeping it to a May through October kind of interest. So that is something that we've been keeping track of. And when we get questions, we do provide those distributions. If people are interested in it, if people approach us about having more long-term businesses moving towards possibly having a year-round property instead of a seasonal property. A couple things too about just our general operations for the zone before I hand it over to John. We are currently looking for an administrative assistant, and we are doing a software revision. You might remember that a couple years ago, we did a reboot on our website and made some updates there. But we are looking to reduce the risk of human error and ultimately make room tax reporting as simple as possible, as painless as room tax reporting can be for our permit holders and for our lodging providers. So we are reaching out to our lodging providers and we are conducting interviews and asking about what would be easier for them, especially as a lot of these marketplace providers like Airbnb, VRBO have significant adjustments that they're making this year. So we're reaching out just to see whether or not there are other things that we can do to be of better assistance and to make sure that we get that money in quickly so we can send it off to you and to Destination Door County for their great work. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If not, I will hand it over to John.
Any questions of Juliana? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome, John, and congratulations on your
Thank you.
appointment.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Great to be with you all tonight. Before I proceed with my comments, again, my name is John Jarsh, longtime member of the professional staff at Destination Door County. It was the chamber when I started, so that tells you that I've been around for a few years. But I did want to just recognize a couple of folks in the room. Kelsey from the Ephraim Business Council, Missy, and also Sarah. They have been really, really great partners of ours through the Ephraim Business Council, all the great work they do. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Also, Dia Tyone is on our board of directors, and so obviously a prominent property here in the village. So certainly like to think that we've got some good Ephraim representation and good connections. Tourism promotion really has been the foundation of our work at Destination Door County, going not quite as far back as Ephraim, but to 1891 when we got our start. And so what's interesting is really how we've evolved as an organization. I think you all that have been around for a bit have seen that for years and years and years. Really, marketing and promotion was what we did. That was what we were charged with. That's what our community had asked us to do. But that's changed. And here in the last probably 10 years or so, we've really started to notice a shift in what the needs of our community have been. And as a result, we've made some changes, which you've all have seen firsthand. Our name change back in 2020 was the start of it, but it started a little before then when we started looking at, okay, we realize that this place is special, and our work we have to continue promoting because we have a lot of businesses and a lot of families that rely on visitor dollars coming into our community. Tremendous amount, and you have information about that in your packet. I'll talk about that shortly. But we also realized that in addition to that, we also had to start to care for this place in ways that we hadn't before. And so a lot of the things that we've done here in the last 6, 7, 8 years kind of really do reflect that. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that down the way, but you do have a handout from me. It's a folder that I put in front of you. There's a sheet. I could talk for 2 hours. Don't worry, I'm not going to. But I just want to run through this, and this is going to be my guide and what I'm going to talk to you all about, and certainly happy to answer some questions at any point in time as well. But again, we have evolved as an organization here, especially in recent history since the pandemic in particular, with the creation of our Destination Stewardship Plan and that whole initiative that we put forth to realize we need to reach back out to our community and really do a refocus and figure out ways that we can help sustain our industry and, quite frankly, our community for the long term. And so some of the activities that we've done have been a direct result of that. The room tax chart that you have, I'm pretty sure you're all quite familiar with it, but I will point it out because just as a refresher, it's just a great indication of where exactly does room tax go in Door County. And so I know Juliana talked about that, but in terms of the 70% that's earmarked for tourism promotion and tourism development, this gives you a real quick one glance at where the primary funding goes that we have. So number one is our municipal reimbursement program. That's the first one I'll talk about. That's the program that we have that reimburses you for the exact amount of the dollars that you pay to fund the operations of the tourism zone. So that's a check that we get to you guys usually in January or February after you guys pay the tourism zone for the year. That's been a great program for us to help support our municipalities. And those funds, because they come out of our 70%, are restricted. And so you guys have absolutely zero issues on spending those on approved uses. And so you do that. But that's been one program that we started back in 2022 that I think has been a great thing for us to work with our municipalities to help provide some funding there. Our Community Investment Fund at the top of the chart there. That's been a program that we started now back in 2023. Since that program began, we've been able to fund and invest over $3.7 million to 70 different projects around the community, from Southern Door all the way up to Washington Island, including a couple right here in Ephraim. And so that's been a great program. Clearly those dollars, since again, they come out of the 70%, they have to be used for tourism development or tourism promotional purposes. But when we created that program, we also added a little filter there that they still have to meet that, but it also has to meet, it has to show an impact, a positive impact on our residents. That's a pretty thin area where you can do that, but that is really where we're trying to focus on to not only improve infrastructure here, but also show our residents a direct benefit of tourism from our visitors. in that particular program. So our 14th round of grants will be out soon. And so we're excited about that. And that program continues. You have a form or a sheet in your packet here that talks about the deadlines for the remaining deadlines for this year for grants, September 28th and December 28th. I highly would encourage you to work with our administrative partner, the Door County Community Foundation. If you have questions or anything, we would certainly encourage any of our municipal partners to get grant applications in, and we continue to want to see those dollars out and helping our infrastructure around the county. The next thing I'm going to talk about really briefly has to do with our community business associations. Obviously, the Ephraim Business Council does a phenomenal job here in the village. We have a program that helps to fund our community business associations. This year, collectively, our budget allocation is about $1.6 million. That's distributed to the 11 business associations that we have in the community. And the partnership with them is really to support the important work they do at the local level. For Ephraim, for Fish Creek, for Jacksonport, for Sturgeon Bay, for Washington Island. They really play a critically important role in our overall destination experience. And the partnership that we have with all of them, not only from funding, but just in other ways as well, has been very important to us and continues to be very important to us. And so that is another place that we spend a decent amount of our funding to help support the work that they do on each of their communities' behalves. Then the last thing that I'll mention is really our core operations. And that gets to the heart of what we do. And without that core operation activity that we do, we may not have the resources to do all the other things I just talked about. Because that core operation is what markets Door County to the world. And it gets people to choose our destination over somewhere else and to bring their money here to Door County instead of somewhere else. The tourism space is an extremely competitive environment. A lot of funding all over the world, especially in our country, trying to get visitors to go to their particular location. And while we know Door County is an incredibly special place, if we didn't do any marketing whatsoever, it may not drop off right away, but it would eventually. And so we need to make sure that we're remaining competitive and continuing to get our message out about how special of a place this is, so we can continue to get people to choose Door County over other places. And when they choose Door County, I'm going to go to this next page. And this is an economic impact fact sheet. These numbers come out in June of every year. $685 million in overall impact last year in 2025. That was the visitor economy on Door County. Part of that is direct spending of about $551.6 million. So it's real dollars, clearly. And so we take this responsibility very seriously, but we can see just from the numbers based on this economic impact report that we have of how vital our industry is to Door County's economy. And so you can see a couple different things on this particular sheet in terms of numbers: tax revenue, employment numbers, labor income from employees here. That was at about $131 million last year. So it's all very, very important numbers. The other thing I'll point out towards the bottom is the rank. We rank 7th out of Wisconsin's 72 counties. The 6 counties in front of us are all pretty much urban year-round destinations. You may not consider Wisconsin Dells urban, but they're definitely year-round. And so we hold our own in terms of the overall state's economy. And because of that, the Department of Tourism probably pays a bit more attention to us than some other destinations, because they understand how big of a player we are in the tourism space in Wisconsin. And in Wisconsin, tourism has about a $27 billion overall economic impact. So it's real money for our state, and it's certainly one of our top industries in the state of Wisconsin. So, all right, I'm almost done, and then I'd be happy to entertain some questions. Another thing that you'll find, and I talked briefly about this earlier, is our stewardship plan, our destination stewardship plan. This is a plan that after the pandemic, we realized that we needed to do some things. We needed to figure out ways to better manage our industry here. and try to call community attention to what we have. And so we put together a plan. It started out as being called a master plan. And about halfway through, we realized that wasn't the best name for it. So we changed it to our Destination Stewardship Plan. This particular plan got input from about 1,500 residents of Door County throughout the process. We had some village hall, town hall style meetings. We did online surveys. We had a number of focus groups. And that all, the input that we gathered there all went into this particular plan. And you can find it in your sheet. Now, the thing I'll mention about this, while we really kind of championed this as an idea and as a thing to do and as a plan, it's not just our plan, because some of the things in here we can't do. We can't use room tax dollars for some of the things that are listed in this plan. So it really is our community's plan. And in areas where we may not be able to directly contribute, we can certainly help advocate, help other organizations, other businesses that can help with housing, for example. We can certainly do our part to help advocate and support those initiatives wherever we can. And so I would encourage you, if you haven't looked at this, to check it out. It is available on our site for anybody in the audience or listening online. If you're interested, if you go to doorcounty.com/stewardship, you'll be able to find this particular plan. One or two other quick things. You do have our strategic plan in your packet as well. This is for 2026. We are in the first of a 3-year overall strategic plan for Destination Door County. But if you want to see that you can see that in there. And the last thing that I'll talk about has to do with the thank you. The Ephraim Village Hall has been a critical part and a critical location for us with the work that we've done to help with our exchange students, our J1 visa students. Since we started about 2015 working with the Social Security Administration, I believe if not all of them have been held here, it's almost all of them in this particular room. And we've been able to help about 2,000 students in that time frame to get their Social Security cards applied for. And it's saved an incredible amount of mileage and time for our local business community that has these students here that are their sponsors, because if they couldn't bring them here, they would have to haul them all the way down to Green Bay. And so I really want to thank you all for letting us utilize this facility for that particular endeavor. We hosted 2 sessions this year again, one in June and one in July. They both went over really well. And we've really kind of been held up across the country as a destination that really is worked well with our J1 students by doing things like that. And the Bridges program, which is another great thing that happens up here to help support those students. And so we really are fortunate. And again, I just want to say thank you for your help there. I'm happy to entertain any questions from anyone.
Thank you, John. Questions of John?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
In your report there, it said that we're down 4% roughly in rooms year over year, 26 versus 25. Do you have any idea what the restaurants business is like?
We do not. We have heard mixed bag from our staff being out and about and talking to different business owners. It seems to be some have been doing good, others have been off this year compared to previous years. There doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason to it yet, and we're definitely keeping our ear to the ground and trying to figure out what might be happening. What have you heard?
Same thing you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was also wondering, do you know how many one-day trippers, people that are coming here for the day and leaving? Do you have any numbers on that?
Unfortunately, we do not. I wish we did. I'm still working to get a turnstile at the county line that can get me that, but I have not. So we don't have a good idea. The data that we have from DOT about traffic data obviously is just, it's any vehicle. We can't decipher if they're coming up here or not. Well, we can do. It's a little harder to do it on the fly in real time, but we can look at some of that data from previous years and say, okay, was traffic volume up or down? That's a pretty good indicator. I mean, we can look at the traffic counts that, right, at the 2 main counters that we use from DOT. They're just south of the county line. But we can look at that and see if volume was up or down. Unfortunately, there's not any real good counters. There's one in County Q, but that's the reports like every day of the year, but that's not a real good indicator because it's of where it's located. But we can sort of look at that and then overlay that with look at, now this is all in the rearview mirror, but looking at lodging data and seeing if there's some correlations there, if we can make some assumptions that Yeah, there might have been more people here, maybe there weren't. We do have a little bit of data through our mobile location stuff that we can look at. There's a lag time with that too, but that can give us a bit more of an idea of if we have more day visitors versus overnight people. But even there, that's great data, but you can't preach it as the gospel because there are some limitations with what that mobile location data can tell us. And it really gives us more of an idea on visitor behavior versus visitor numbers. It's not like a people counter either. So, but we can glean some data and some information from that. But again, it's not real time, so we won't be able to tell that for probably another month or two.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, and I apologize if you already provided this
Yeah.
number, but as to the municipal reimbursement program, what percentage of the 70% typically goes back to the municipalities in that program?
Yeah, it honestly, the number is based on the budget of the Tourism Zone Commission. So that number for that particular program goes up and down. I'm sorry, Rick, I don't know what the percentage is. But whatever the budget of the Tourism Zone Commission is for that particular year, that's the amount of our municipal reimbursement program. So this year, I don't know what it was.
So for 2025, for example, it was about $414,000. And EFRM provided 11% of that, and then 11% would have been what they received back.
Yeah. So I certainly can get you that number, but that number isn't a percentage. It's really based on what the zone's budget is each year, because it's a direct correlation to what you all are paying as municipalities to fund their administrative operations. So.
Any other questions?
I was going to ask a similar question to what Matt was asking about restaurants and things like that. And just also going back to what Juliana was saying is that if there are people staying in houses or, condos and stuff like that, there may be cooking more of their own food and not going out as much. But my question is, there has been talk previously about updating how the CIF is not necessarily managed, but maybe some of the eligibility or some of the different possible funding opportunities that people would be eligible for with the CIF. Has there been any adjustments made to how that's being run?
Yeah, those conversations are still ongoing. At this point in time, there haven't been any adjustments to what we've done the last couple of years. But when we started, even before the first dollar was granted, there was discussion about how to proceed with the program in general. Do we have it more open-ended and see what comes in versus saying, okay, we want to fund these type of projects? We initially started because we didn't necessarily know what was going to happen with the program and what kind of interest we would see in it, that we left it more open-ended just to see and say, okay, here are the eligibility, and let's see what comes in from municipalities, from any nonprofits, any of the eligible organizations. We have a governance committee that meets once a year now to kind of talk through that. And our board certainly has some influence on that as well, in terms of recommendations to that committee. But for the short term, meaning the next probably 1, 2, maybe 3 years, I would assume that there'll be at least a portion of our community investment fund that will operate as it has for the last couple of years, meaning that we'll welcome any sorts of applications that have to meet the certain tests that funding that grant awardees have to meet. But what we're looking at now is it time to start to look at specific areas that we want to try to have more of an impact on, and say, okay, we're going to earmark a percentage or a dollar amount of whatever is in the community investment fund to these sorts of projects. We haven't made a determination of what these sorts of projects might be yet. There's certainly been some conversation along what that might look like, but we haven't made any specific decisions about that yet. Certainly would be open to any thoughts or feedback from the village, and anyone else in the community for that matter that may have them. So.
Thank you, John.
Rick, one other thing to your point, there are parts of the 70% that we are entrusted with that are outside of the municipal reimbursement program that do go back to municipalities. And that would be anything that's been awarded to a municipality through the Community Investment Fund, because those dollars are part of the 70%. We also did a couple of years ago, we did a special one-time offering to our municipalities for parks. That would have been in 2023, I believe, where we took a set amount of funds in the Tourism Reserve Fund the very first year that we had that. And we provided back to our local municipalities for stuff. I don't remember off the top of my head how much Ephraim got in that particular moment. It was based off a room tax, just like we do. So you got whatever the percent was out of that overall pot for that particular program. So there have been a couple of other instances there.
Anything else? Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Thank you. We really do appreciate your partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you. You want me to turn this off?
You can leave it on.
All right.
Thank you. Just a minute on room tax. The Village of Ephraim gets back approximately $400,000, maybe a little bit more, every year from room tax, and we use that for our capital programs. So that's something when we, built the North Pedestrian Path, built the waterfront work, that all came from room tax. So we tend to save the room tax and then use it for our capital programs. So it's real important to the village. Okay, doke. 8B, discussion and consideration regarding combination Class B and Class C alcohol beverage retailers license, Waterbury Inn Owners Association, DBA Waterbury Inn at 10321 Water Street. Brent? I guess we just need a motion to approve the
Motion
licenses.
to, and as per usual, follow whatever guidance you got from Andrea in her report.
Yeah, she asked for health and fire
Mhm.
inspection to be
No-
included.
Nothing further to add.
Okay,
I move to approve the Waterbury Inn Owners Association, DBA Waterbury Inn at 10321 Water Street, Class B, Class C alcohol beverage retailers license dependent on fire and health inspection.
thank you. Carly, in a second.
Second.
Thank you, Rick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye, opposed? Okay, approved. And then let's go on to C, discussion and consideration regarding administrative building and village hall planning, design, and options. And when that queues up, I will ask Brent to give us a little opening here. This is actually one of the things we were talking about. It was reliable systems. All right, here we are. Brent, you want to give us a brief intro?
Yeah, I guess, obviously, we've had a few discussions on this over the past couple of months. Carly, Ken, and myself, working with Andre and Kim, have met with Keller to develop some plan alternatives. Originally, there were 4. One that was option 3, that was a large addition of the admin building, was removed just from a scale standpoint, leaving us with 3 remaining options. Option 1 for the admin building, which was basically work within the bones of the structure we have for a full gut and rehab. Option 2, a small addition of the building, and then an option 4, which would be a new building, likely on the same facility.
Same property.
Same property. Recent discussions have brought to light what the future of this building would be relative to meetings, because one of the things from, I guess, a needs analysis and working through the problems with the overall operation of village administration and meetings and looking long-term at a solution is, where does the village hall play into that? So probably that's been the place for the most change relative to the discussion items being considered. We had a special meeting last month with Keller and Quantum Technologies, who has been working on our audio video for us basically since COVID. Basically, the Keller options were, I guess, just laying out if it was determined that more space on the stage was necessary for long-term housing of meetings in this location. They drew up a couple alternatives for that with us. I genuinely applaud them for turning this around so quickly, basically in 2 months. And I also thank Brian Frisk, who happened to be up at the office on the day where Keller said, if I don't get blueprints today, we're not going to be able to turn this around. After, this is too much information, but after Lampert's left, there's really no one in Northern Door County with a large scale scanner printer. So Brian was able to take our old blueprints of this building, which literally were blueprints, and scan them, get them over to Keller. So what we have here is, which will be tremendous moving forward, a scaled digital rendering of this building as it sits today. And then they also proposed a couple alternatives, an option 1 and an option 2 for stage expansion. Again, we really didn't get too deep in our conversations about what that would look like. It really was more, feasibility, what some of that might look like, what costs associated might look like. So again, how receptive we would be to these is obviously to be determined, but just briefly speaking to it, option 1 basically would call for the removal of the bathrooms that are immediately behind the stage, and rather than pushing the stage out front, reducing available room for other events within the hall, is taking that space up in the back. And then option 2 is kind of what was discussed previous, and putting a small addition for stage expansion out front towards the audience area. Along with that is, again, some real rough numbers from them on what budget might look like for that, understanding it was a pretty quick turnaround. Then obviously we have the existing renderings that haven't been altered since previously presented to the board in the past. And then I do have numbers from Quantum on what we might be looking at for long-term audio video improvements to the hall. For the most part, they're looking at it. I know there's options out there where we might consider more permanent locating of tables and microphones and things like that, but based on the feedback they saw, it's really not going to change their budget from if it was permanently mounted versus a modular system. As many things that can be hardwired, like screens, projectors, cameras, things like that, would be like the display kind of control panel for meetings itself would probably be fixed in some location, but it still would generally have the ability to be modular if we needed it to be. But again, that can evolve as plans evolve. If it's desired to be hardwired, reliability wise, that's the greatest from their standpoint. But they definitely reassured us that advances in technology over the last 5 years have increased so that we can see more reliability, even if the microphones themselves are still modular. I know they kind of roughly quoted, north of 100,000, maybe as high as 150 for that. Their number came back at 80. Again, this is just a starting point. I would have a lot of back and forth with them, fine tuning all of that. But from a budgetary standpoint, similar to the numbers for stage modification option 1 and 2, I think that's the biggest, is just setting a preliminary conservative estimate for that. But with that, that's kind of what has changed and what we're seeing in the packet that we haven't discussed in the past.
Thank you, Brent. To give maybe a little more background information, we were working on alternatives for the administration building. And with the initial assumption that that administration building, expansion, new building, whatever it might be, would house all of our meetings in the future. Meetings like this would all go to the administration building. And as we talked about it more, there was support for keeping business meetings in the village hall, not to take those back there. So that's the reason we were looking at, okay, what would we have to do to this building to improve it, to continue to have what I call business meetings here, like the village board, like the plan committee, and then what would we have to do with the AV system? So what I'd like to do is kind of go around the board and get your reaction to the two kind of I'll call them simple improvements to the village hall and just get some kind of reactions. We kind of talked this through. So maybe I'd start with you, Tim.
Sure. I didn't think we were going to be seeing this information by this meeting either. So yeah, that really, it's impressive. And honestly, with both of the, excuse me, general proposals, I guess I'm kind of happy with either one, although I'm kind of partial to keeping those restrooms in the back of the building, if at all possible. There may be a good reason to take those away. That seems to be the biggest change associated with the two, the alternatives. In terms of seating space, projecting a stage further out onto this floor area, it didn't look like it was too obtrusive to me. It looked like it would probably work. And Brent, what you were mentioning as far as modular versus permanent AV equipment, I'm surprised, happily surprised to hear that, well, you know, the price is probably the same and reliability with modular by and large can be improved over what we have now. To me, that's the number one priority is, you know, in terms of even using this building, is can we ensure good good sound and visual recording quality, so that in the event of an evening like this, where you know, note taking isn't being done on the spot, this works right now as long as nothing cuts out. But in the future, will the equipment support that sort of fidelity, I guess? And secondly, reliability. Well, and I guess maybe those two are together. The walk-in, press one button, run the meeting, you know, that's important. It shouldn't be something that requires a lot of special skill and maybe limited number of people who can make that system happen. So just to begin with, I'm very happy with, I guess, with either. I would, if I was going to choose, I think I would push the stage into the meeting room, into this hall a little bit further.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Carly, comments?
Yeah, so I guess first, just a quick comment. I wasn't sure if we are going to be talking about the technology kind of component of it. From my perspective, I would wonder if we could get other quotes to see what other people would say about these options. That's a really big number, and I think it's something that for our own due diligence, it would make sense for us to understand what other suggestions are out there. Going back to what Keller has presented, with option one, I have a few questions, which is how would we keep restrooms available outside of the typical hours? I know just in having a business here that these are very busy bathrooms. So taking them out and not necessarily being able to have these available seems very problematic to me if we're not going to provide another option. And I guess I would also wonder, how would we fix the current elevator again to get people who would need access to bathrooms that are not here? So in my mind, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again, this feels like a shortcoming of a project that doesn't necessarily fix all of the issues in the village hall. I guess it just doesn't fix it for me as far as the physical components that they're suggesting. And option two, I have to kind of just say no to it, because it really just reduces the usability for anything but our board meetings. There's a lot of different things that are outlined in the packet that use the stage that, or platform as they want us to be using that term, that I don't know would still work in that sense, because it's only going to be a foot off of the ground. So I guess those are my comments.
Thank you. Matt?
The first thing is, Carly's right. We did take a vote that passed and we were supposed to get a second opinion on this sound system in this building, and that hasn't happened yet. So we need that to happen.
So I have a meeting on Friday
Right.
with another audio video
But
company.
we need that before we can make any decisions. As for the plans, I would vote for neither of them. We don't need to do anything that's proposed in this plan. If there's a meeting that we need to have more people and they don't want to feel cozy, we can set up down on the floor here and have plenty of room. When the Quantum guy was here, he was talking about the wireless things to where, so if we were to go that way, if we had a big meeting, we had to sit down here, that doesn't affect our audio visual. We function right now, not perfectly, but well enough to operate. And so I don't see the point of spending the money here to have extra seating for once a month, when if we have somebody that is elected and can get up on the stage, we can have meetings down here. Nothing says that we have to have our meetings up here. As for the elevator, we can always have somebody come and fix something or figure out something so that if they're down there, they can get the elevator down there and get up.
Thank you, Matt. Rick?
I too would like to see a second opinion. And Brent said you have a meeting coming up, so that's good. So I would echo what Carly and Matt said. I remember when we had the meeting with Keller, a board meeting, and I think I asked the architect directly, in the event that our tech people say that whatever acoustic issues, whatever, hearing us talk, each other talk, issues we have can be solved technologically, that we need not spend any money as to ADA compliance. So I guess what I'm seeing so far, what I'm hearing so far kind of makes me happy that it appears that there, and I'd like to see a second opinion, obviously, but it appears that there is a technological solution to the issues that this village hall has, as for people hearing us, et cetera. So that makes me happy. I guess I would echo Matt, given that being the case, I guess I'm not concerned about getting a second opinion as to physical changes. I kind of don't think that we need them, seeing as though it appears that there is a tech solution here.
Thank you, Rick. I personally am against making any changes to this building. I think if the day comes that we want to take a look at changing this building, whether it be the bathrooms or ADA compliance, we ought to look at the building as a whole and not just to take a chunk for a stage. So I'm personally against either of the options, either the build-out options. And I had a suggestion because it seemed like we were having a hard time deciding, build ourselves a perfect meeting room in the new admin building or continuing to use this and having business done down here. So I would like to propose that we don't do any work on this building, leave it the way it is. And we move, I shouldn't even say move, we maintain our village board meetings here, and the board would also include the board of review, the finance committee, the personnel committee, also the plan committee with the historic preservation, and the board of appeals. Those are the three major boards, committees we have that deal with the public. The working committees, I'll call them, which would be community protection, green tier, ad hoc, library, marinas and mooring, physical facility, wastewater. They're usually small community meetings. Once in a while they have a guest. And I would recommend we do accommodate that in whatever the new building is going to be over at the location of the admin building. So if that seems agreeable, because I would like to reach a conclusion tonight of what we're going to do here, and that allows us to go back and focus on what we want to do with the admin building. And I'd like to get people's kind of reaction to that. We could always in the future make this a capital project and then look at what we want to do with this building.
By change, I mean, you're just talking the physical change stage related, not audio video.
Audio visual, I agree with the second opinion for a lot of reasons, but we need to do something there to make it all the things we talked about, reliable, a better experience for especially the people here and also the people at home.
And I can assure you from an audio video standpoint, there's no one more interested in getting the best we can for the budget we have than me. There's been no larger stress in my life than, March of 2020 than is the AV going to work, because that falls solely on my shoulders. So
I was happy to hear, because it seemed like we had a dilemma in this building. We tried a lot of different experiments and they weren't working. And I was happy to hear that they felt that there's a solution with, I will say, the last 5 years of technology, and absolutely get some other people up here to take a look at it. But that's what I'd like to limit. I suggest we limit our investment to in this building is AV.
I think that makes sense to not make any physical changes at this time and look at it in the future as a much larger scale project potentially, and focus just on the AV at this point.
Okay.
I would agree. The AV is the number one priority, regardless of what we were going to do here or considering to do here. And I guess the narrowness of the tables and the space that we have on the stage, I can put up with it. If everybody else can, it's really not a problem. And yes, going into the future, maybe sometime in the future, physical changes can be made. It's not that big a deal. I mean, it's not a big mental leap. Just one thing that came to mind here that I honestly hadn't looked at on the proposals, any of the proposals for up at the old schoolhouse building. Does the seating for the board and say, plan committee, et cetera, is all that seating on a raised stage, or is it all floor level?
No.
It's all floor level, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, all floor level.
Okay, so really, the stage height is really more of it's related more to the use of the village hall for other than village government.
Right.
Good enough. Thank you.
Matt, comments?
No.
Okay. Rick?
I think you posed the question as to your idea about making a distinction between the types of meetings and where they are. I think that that's a decent compromise, a decent thought. I mean, I've served on a couple of those committees and it seems like they're much smaller, obviously. So I think that that's something that could work. I mean, I guess you probably would want to leave it to the committee chair in certain circumstances based on something. They could always bring it here or whatever. I mean, it's not necessarily a hard and fast rule. You have to be there, and but as long as, I raised the point originally. I just wanted to see, the village's business done here. As to the committees, that's fine, and that flexibility, as needed.
Okay.
I'm okay with having meetings up at the new administration building if the chair wants it to. But I don't think that we should be mandated as to where our meetings are going to be.
I think the idea, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that most of the business meetings are conducted at night and the committee meetings are during the day. So there'll be something that makes it easier for the staff to run those meetings and not have to kind of run back and forth to the village hall during the kind of typical workday. I think it's part of the idea as well.
Yeah, I think relative to, the letter Andre and Kim put together a month or two back, this hybrid, if you will, is still checking that box. Because the nighttime meetings, on rare occasion, yeah, you might work through 4 till a meeting that starts at 6 or 7, but usually you're going home, so you're uprooting anyway. Less disruption for an evening meeting to come down here. And then some of those concerns about, people can't take vacation during meetings unless you rely on the audio video, which with increased audio video reliability, can be an option too. But there's no doubt the daytime meeting was the biggest issue relative to long-term housing of meetings. So I could see staff getting behind that.
Okay. Well, in order to, Andy, I'm sorry. Sure. Yeah. Comments, please.
My name is Andy Bartelt. I'm a resident, but a short-term resident. I do not have a long historic or even sort of romantic attachment to the village hall, as I know many people do. I do go back 10 years, and I can remember that it was only COVID that caused us to move into this building to have any kind of meetings. And I think that's true. And I'm just asking the question. It seems to me that we've been making this work, trying our best to make do in a building that doesn't seem well designed for these kinds of meetings. And my question is, was it? I'm asking out of ignorance. I don't know if the building was built and there were a period of time when meetings were held here. Is that?
As far as the records, we can tell when I know we have a previous president that was here when we made the move, but we bought that schoolhouse in 83. And then in 84, from what I could tell from the records, is when the meetings, all meetings were moved to the schoolhouse in 84.
Okay. Yeah.
And then it wasn't until COVID in March of 2000 that we decided to come here for the 6-foot spacing. That was the requirement. We had a big building.
That's what I remember. And then we actually started by
Yeah.
being on the floor.
And back in the
More
streetscape
space.
days, we had some big meetings here. And this building works good if you have a microphone,
Yeah.
if you have speakers up there. There was no one online before that.
Yeah.
Online came with COVID. So it was a different presentation. If this building works fine, if we're making a presentation to everyone that's sitting here.
Right.
What gets difficult is when we try to do a quality presentation to the people at home.
Right.
But I think what we're dealing with here, Andy, is kind of a compromise. Okay, this isn't the perfect building. There's a lot of problems. It's a big space, a hard space. But in order to keep having the business down here, keep this as a viable business meeting. I know there's other things that happen in this meeting too. That's where we're kind of getting at, I'll call it a compromise situation. And I, for one, I do like having meetings here. It's kind of, it's a place of business, but it's not perfect. It is definitely a compromise. We hope with a good AV system, that'll be better. And those guys said it would, but of course, I think they say that to all the girls.
Yeah. Well, I guess my comment then,
We lost you there, Andy.
I'm only one opinion, but with what has been presented so far as the various options for the modifications at the admin building, there seems no reason why we can't have all our meetings there with the option of doing something special down here if that needs the space and the presentation. But to spend even a modest amount of money on audio visual that will still kind of be making it work and making do, it seems to me, just seems unnecessary.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions from or comments from people here or people at home?
I guess it's a follow-up and something I thought about, but again, would want to see what other options are available as far as the technology is concerned. But we do have to recognize that we would be spending a significant amount of money technology here and the same at the admin building as well for those meetings. So it is compounding our expense.
A good, I don't disagree. I don't think we'd have to work as hard at internal amplification in the new space because it would be smaller. There might be the need for some, but I think it could be simpler in looking at least the quantum quote. A lot of that is labor, just because it's much more difficult to run audio video up through the attic and the ceiling and through these walls and make it look decent. Whereas just like new construction, if you're running a new wire with open stud walls, it's a lot easier to do that work. So yes, there would be some redundancies in the hybrid, but I don't believe it would be the same order of magnitude up there.
Okay, would someone like, I would like to probably ask for a motion to make a decision what we're going to do, and then we can move on and focus more on the admin building. So if someone is willing, I would like a motion.
How can we make a decision? Are we saying that we want to go ahead with audiovisual before we have a second quote?
No, what I'm looking at is making a decision of what meetings we're going to have here. We have a long way to go on audio visual. But before we go further, I think we need to decide, is this going to be the place we're going to have our business meetings? Then the board will look at alternatives for audio visual. But with the idea, we're not going to do any other physical improvements to this building.
Ken, are you asking, sorry, are you asking for like a resolution or board stated intention that we continue holding meetings and try to make the village hall, this room, more audio visually capable?
I am, and the reason I'm doing that is that allows us to go back on the options that we're looking at the admin building and knowing that, okay, we don't have to accommodate large meetings with large groups of people. So it'll probably change the layouts, because this will be common no matter what alternative we choose at the admin building. So that's what I'm trying to do is make a decision so we can go back to the admin building and decide what we want to do.
Okay.
Andy, sure.
I just want to bring up the issue of parking.
Yeah.
Which is a big issue here, especially in the summer. That would not be a problem. And if you're going to have the larger meetings here, it's the larger meetings at which parking is an even greater problem.
That's a good point. Reactions?
Well, I want to respond to Andy, just I guess philosophically here. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I would like to see, and I guess I brought this up a couple meetings ago. I would like to see our village board meetings, the big business meetings, remain in this village hall. I understand that they were moved from here sometime in the early to mid 80s. I can't speak as to why that was. I am not saying that this is the perfect venue, to hold the meetings. I am frankly skeptical that there is such a thing as a perfect place. I don't care how much money we spend to have perfection. It's not happening on this earth. So I think that there's, some might call it symbolic reasons. I think that it's that, and I think it's more than that. That's what this building was built for. It's iconic within this village. And I also am concerned, and we can discuss other, properties around this village, where if we stop using it in an official capacity, does this village hall become something far less than it is and what it has been? Does it become kind of an ornament within this village? Does it become another Anderson Dock Hardy Gallery? Who knows? I'm not suggesting that, that we are going to be wondering a year from now or 2 years from now that we'll start to have discussions about, well, gosh, we've moved all of our meetings and everything is up at this, whatever we have, the admin building wise. And now the village hall needs this and needs that. this will never be torn down, ever. I don't even want to, that's a ridiculous thought. But could it be in 5 or 10 years that we start thinking, well, you know, the foundation uses it more, this organization uses it more, and maybe they should contribute, or maybe we should, you know, have a different kind of ownership structure. I mean, all of these discussions that I've heard now for years about, for example, the Anderson Dock. These are all viable discussions. I want to avoid that ever happening to this building. This building is too special, too important. And I will admit I do have some emotion. I mean, I was in the mid 1970s having our Cub Scout meetings in here, and Pinewood Derby, and being in a play and all that. And yes, the Village Hall can be used for so many things, but it is the Ephraim Village Hall. The Ephraim Village Hall will never be the administration, admin building. It will be this building. And I would, if we keep our official business here, it will, I don't want to say force anybody's hand, but it will be a self-fulfilling thing, I think, to use it and maintain it, take care of it, and own it as an official building forever. That's what I would like. That's really my motivation. And again, yeah, parking. I mean, there's so many things we can discuss. We can discuss everything. This is our Village Hall, and I'd like to keep it that way. That's my reasoning.
Well, good discussion. Can we reach a conclusion that we want to have our major business meetings down here for the future? And we'll look at alternatives, get the best AV system we can get. I shouldn't say it like that. There's no limit to that. But improve the AV, especially for the experience of the people here and the people at home. Also agree that we're not going to do any other work to this building. That would be a project all by itself to look at that. So that's what I'm looking for, is direction. If we're all in agreement on that approach, then I think we can start to look at the alternatives we have left for the admin building.
Yeah, for my role, I think it just helps, put these elements of this project on a shelf and, have that dealt with. Because again, audio video reliability, certainly from a first standpoint, is priority 1B. 1A is, a healthy, safe, effective work environment up at admin. But, I'll continue the work on audio video upgrades, but I have personally no intent of pulling the trigger on that until we know what we're doing up there. But the sooner we can make a decision, and yeah, if you wait 6 months, you wait a year, price of products is going to go up. Like anything, it'll get more expensive as we wait. But I don't personally see us making that move necessarily, at least until we have a direction on that. But maybe I'm mistaken in that. But it's just the more direction we can give to the overall process, I think, is going to help as we can fine tune our scope a little bit.
Well, do you want it formed in the form of a resolution?
That would be fine. That'd be fine to kind of document the decision we're making here tonight to allow us to move forward.
All right, I guess I'll take a stab at it. I move that the board resolve that henceforth the village board meetings, plan committee meetings, village board of review meetings, the Board of Zoning Appeals meetings be held here in the Village Hall. And that going forward, that the working committees, and I won't list them all, but the working committee meetings be held in the admin building, whatever form that takes going forward. I don't know if that's what you were looking for.
I think that's good enough. If we'd like to have a second on that so we can discuss.
The only one we have to add, because they go hand in hand, is HPC to that as well.
Oh, right.
Oh,
HBC goes with plan. They're kind of together.
I'll second it so we can have a discussion.
Okay. Okay, further discussion.
Yeah, I thought we were talking about the audiovisual upgrades.
Well, that's
building as
okay.
opposed to which meetings we hold where. I understand which meetings we hold where kind of falls. I see that as a result, as something that will fall out of, it will result from the capabilities we have here and whatever plan we agree on up at the old school. So I guess I don't mind a resolution. I would resolve that we continue using the village hall for meetings as we see fit. Well, it's open, but when you say, all village board meetings will be here, or all, say, marinas and moorings meetings will be held elsewhere, of course, there are going to be exceptions.
I'm only responding to what Ken was looking for.
Right.
He was, and I
Okay.
think what Ken's
Right.
getting at is that if we make that type of decision, that then drives our decisions as to facilities. Is that what you're getting at,
It
Ken?
is. And I think you're going to need an amendment to add the audio visual, because that's the one thing that goes along with that, the improvement of the audio visual of this room. You want to
Well,
amend that motion, or?
Well, if we amend it to, and furthermore, since you used a henceforth, I'll use it furthermore, pursue updating the audio-visual capabilities of this village hall for the purpose of increasing the reliability and effectiveness of public meetings.
Can I have a second on the amendment?
I'll second.
Okay, let's just discuss the amendment now, before we go back to the original motion. Any discussion on the amendment?
No, so long as it contemplates the second opinion.
Well, yeah, just pursuing. That's why I put it that way.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Amendment carries. Now let's go back to discussion on the original motion. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none. All those in favor,
Ken, your
please
mic's
say aye.
off. Ken, your mic's off again.
You looked at it.
Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, thank you. The second thing I'd like to do tonight relative to the administration building is reduce our number of options from 3 to 2. We've got 3 options on the table right now, and Brent just scrolled up option number 1. Option number 1 is reconfiguring the existing building envelope. Of course, there's rehab work to be done with the building, new HVAC system, new roof, several things. But working within that original footprint of that building, plus adding a ramp to make it really accessible. Option 2 is to add an addition, small, how many square foot addition is it? I can't remember, it's 400 or so.
818.
818, but as you can see,
Oh, it includes-
probably at least half of that is
Yeah.
the ramp.
Option 2 has an addition on the, I'll say, the back right side facing the building, or facing from the parking lot, and it has an enclosed ramp. And then option 4, we had an option 3 that was very big that we discarded some time ago. Option 4 is to build a new building, most likely on the same property on the other side of the fire station. That'd be option 4, excuse me. So what I'd like to do to continue this thing on, can we get down to 2 options from the 3? And maybe I'll start on the other side of the fence this time. I'll let Rick go first. If, what 2 options would you choose to continue on with?
And if I can jump in real quick.
Okay.
Too. The options really are just to lay out based on a needs assessment. I mean, other than option 1, which is working within the bones of what we have. But the layout within that and the others really is just how much space do we need? So I'd just say relative to this office will be here, this door will be here type of thing. That comes at that next level of detail. So if there's aspects of it that you don't like, you're not the only one. There are things that we would tweak within it too. It's really just to establish a scope and budget relative to the varying options.
Right, so we really have existing building with an addition and a new building. Those, yeah, we'll tweak the exact layouts and square footage and so forth.
And yeah, before Rick starts, both options 1 and 2, existing building and existing building with an addition, they both involve basically gutting the existing building
Correct.
and upgrading all HVAC,
Right.
restructure, to stop leaks, et cetera. So
Yes,
there's no difference between them. It's strictly the floor plan.
correct,
Yeah, thank you.
correct. Yeah, the roof would be brand new. It'd be a new roof. Not a replacement roof. I mean, the entire roof would be new. It'd be a different design, a slightly different design. And to prevent all the ice dams that we have out there now. Yeah. Okay, Rick, I'll go back to you for comments on the 3 options.
Okay, as to options 1, 2, and 3, and I guess question for Brent. Do those 3 contemplate all of the work that is in option 0? So for example, you do 1, 2, or 3, all of the problems that the building has, all of the, deferred maintenance, all of that. And I think from the June 9th meeting, that was a $600,000
Right.
option.
Mhm.
Those all contemplate that, right? That's all, that would be included in 1,
Correct.
2, and 3.
Just 1 and 2.
Not 3?
3 is a new building.
Well,
No,
Oh,
4.
I'm sorry.
4 is.
Right, we got rid of 3 though, right?
Okay.
We dropped 3 several
All right, 2
months
and
ago.
4. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're
We're at 1, 2, and 4.
1, 2, and 4. Okay,
Yeah.
so 1 and 2.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I guess, seeing as though, I mean, I can see the logic behind building a new facility from the standpoint of building it and having all new stuff and having not to worry about it for a long time because it's new and purpose built and all of that. But for me, option 4, because I just cannot see us having a building on our books that is as problematic as that one is, we're going to be spending the $600,000 anyway. And let's just say that, and I guess that's why I'm just dealing with option 4, the new number 3, I guess, just from a logical point of view. If we were to conclude that, all right, we're going to have a scaled down building, new building, and the 3,500 square foot building, they quoted us $2 million. So let's say we decide, or we don't need all that much meeting space, or we don't need something, but maybe it's probably meeting space. So let's say it's 2,800 square feet. That's now a $1.6 million building. 2,500, that's 1.43. If you build the exact same size building, which isn't going to happen, 2,172 square feet, that's 1.242 million. All of those numbers include, to my way of thinking, the 600,000, which we really need to spend because we can't have a crumbling building. I don't care what we use it for. We have to have a new roof. We have to get rid of, mold and all the different things that have been discussed. That has to happen anyway. So for that reason, I don't see, I would otherwise see option 4 as cost effective because you're getting a purpose built new building, but because we're spending the 600,000 anyway, I would personally not want to see option 4. So for me, if we're going to get down to 2 options, I would say that it makes the most sense to do option 1 or option 2, because it includes the option 0 work.
I would just also add, in my mind, if we did go with option 4, it would be hard for me to justify the additional cost for the village hall as well. If we're going to make a building from scratch. But otherwise.
Matt, I'm going to go over to you next, please.
Can you scroll to the one with the addition? So I'm looking at this here. Are we not including the basement square footage is storage in any of these plans?
Yes, we are.
Yeah,
including.
basement is storage.
Okay. And so if we use that as storage correctly, we still need the extra 818 square feet to make that building functional.
Again, if the board would decide that we don't need a ramp or we don't need an enclosed ramp, that number drops drastically. I think it then becomes maybe 400 square feet, something like that. It's just a guess, but a great deal of that is to facilitate the ramp.
And the reason behind an internal ramp is it is better for the maintenance team or maintenance group to be able to, it's less work on them as well, or part of it.
Well, and also when we have voting, or whatever function might be in there, then we know we have a clear ramp. It's not icy, whatever, but that, that's an expense. That's half the, addition.
I mean, we have to do something, we have to make anything that we're going to do ADA compatible and accessible for these people. That's not even a question. I like the new building. However, I'm a big believer in not creating more bureaucracies. And if we build a new building, the old schoolhouse, as somebody calls it, becomes another bureaucracy. And those are money pits. So I guess I would lean to either option 1 or option 2 based on that.
Thank you, Matt. Carly?
I feel like I've said a lot about this project already, and I agree with a lot of people on this stage. So I think spending the time to look into option 1 or option 2 to really get it to solve the problems that we're trying to solve for our staff makes the most sense.
Thank you. Tim?
I agree. Rick made a good money point, and regarding option 4, I'm glad we've kept that along as an option until now, because we should always, keep it keeps our thoughts relatively clear. But at this point, yeah, I think option 1 or option 2, I'm willing to eliminate option 4.
Okay. I basically agree with all the comments have been made. I think if we did abandon that building, we'd put the money into it to fix it, and then we have to figure out what we're going to do with it. It'd be an extra building that,
We'd be treating it as a solution, looking for a problem.
yeah. Okay. Okay, so then we're in agreement that we're going to move on with options number 1 and number 2. So we can get back to work with Keller, and then what I would like to do moving forward.
Microphone, Ken. You did.
For our next meeting, I'd like to invite Keller to the meeting and have a special board meeting and just focus on option 1 and option 2 and get all the comments out there, so that we can decide where we want to go on this. But
Do you want any sort of motion, or are
We
you
could-
comfortable with where we're at?
oh, we have a question.
Okay.
Mr. Ex-President, past president. Okay. No. Well, we use Keller. Keller does design build, and we use them for the maintenance garage, and we were happy with them. And so we brought them in to do this. There's nothing magic. I mean, we're not married to Keller. Well, what happened? What happens
It
with
did.
Keller?
It did.
It will all be bid. It will all be bid. What Keller does is kind of a construction manager, but they don't do any of the work. It'll be broken down and maintenance building was broken down, I think 13 pieces, and each piece was bid. And then they did the oversight on it. And Keller also has architects, and that's who we're working with now. Okay, we can go with a motion. Someone wants to have a motion to document this?
I move we proceed with option 1 or 2 for the administration building.
Okay, thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you. Let me get back to my agenda. All right. D, discussion regarding draft protected waterfront ordinance. I get to talk again. Our plan, well, I'll go back. The village board at our May 12th, 26 meeting gave the plan committee direction to take another look at 1720. That's the protected waterfront ordinance. That includes all the properties, basically from Anderson Dock all the way down to, well, the second last building is Plum Cottage, if you know that one, but all the way down to across the street from the Held's house. We have 25 residents in that area. And we had originally revised it only about 2 years ago. And what we realized after reviewing 3 projects with the revised ordinance is we were kind of surprised at what we were being presented with. Because in our minds, we were looking, we tried to loosen things up for people so they could build part of a second story or a half story with ending up with a 1.5 story house. And what we're ending up with were 2-story houses. So the board gave us the authority, the plan committee, to go back, look at the ordinance again, and that's what's in front in the package, is the proposed ordinance and the original ordinance. And another point I'd like to make is this is discussion only tonight. Next week, next month at the village board meeting, we would set it to a public hearing. The public hearing goes for a month, and at the following village board meeting, we would actually discuss it, taking all the comments from the public hearing. I am not going to be able to attend our village board meeting next month. So I want an opportunity with Rick, we're both sitting in the plan committee, to present this, to have a discussion. So if we get input and we decide we want to make some revisions, we can make it now at a regularly scheduled plan committee meeting before we go to the village board next month. So I don't know if people have had a chance to read the new one and read the old one, but I put together a little summary sheet that I'm just going to walk through. What hasn't changed with the new proposed ordinance? The intent is the same, which still focuses on preserving open viewing and encouraging property owners to use and maintain their existing residences. The other thing that hasn't changed is no structure shall exceed 23 feet in height. That would be the top of the roof. And with certain features being allowed up to 25 feet, no more than 25 feet. Some of the, I'll call them clarifications we made. We now define a 1.5 story house in there, and the definitions are all in there. And we added several other definitions. We also defined decks and porches, what they are, those that are attached to the houses. Next, what has become more restrictive? The proposed footprint alterations can be no wider than the existing as measured parallel to State Highway 42. So you're allowed to change your footprint. You can't increase it. If you've got 1,000 square feet, that's all you got, but you can change it. But now we're saying, because we're really interested in views of the bay, that you can make it no wider. So you can make it deeper. The second thing, we had previously allowed up to 50% of the roof to no less than a 612 pitch, but I'm sorry, less than 612, but greater than 312. What we wanted to do is give some latitude on roof lines. But it turned out that when we allowed 50% of the roof to be a 312, that's a rather flat-ish roof. That's how architects were able to build a 2-story house. So we're kind of we're eliminating the more gentle slope. We're going to stick with 612 to 1212, but we made 3 exceptions. One exception is a limited number of shed dormers. Another exception are porches. And another exception is front entrance roofs, small roof over front entrance. The other thing that has become more restrictive, before we had we did not deal with existing decks and porches. And now we're saying that if you have a deck, you can replace a deck. If you have a porch, you can replace a porch. If it's screened, you can screen it. If it's windowed, you can window it. But if you have nothing, there'll be nothing on the new house. And then the other thing that we did is we minimize outdoor lighting. This won't be a surprise to anybody if with kind of the general direction of the village, but we're limited outdoor lighting to entrance points of the homes. Now, what has become less restrictive? Under the permitted uses, we now include the reproduction of an existing structure. Previously, if your structure got destroyed in an ice shove or burnt, you're allowed to replace it, what we call reproduction. It should look like the building, the same size, the same style as you have. Now we're going to allow reproductions of existing structures because either the person just wants to use updated material, wants to gut the house, whatever, but you'll look, the reproduction definition is strict. It basically has to reproduce the look of that house with all the details, but allowing modern materials. We also have an exception in there. The next line there is we allow 3 methods for additions, modifications, sections 6, 7, and 8. And these encourage the preservation of original structures, including reproduction. Section 6 is new language that allows exceptions for applicants who retain the original building to preserve the character of the protected waterfront district. So we're saying that the plan committee has the authority to basically work with an individual that wants to preserve their major structure to some of the other rules that are contained in here. Again, I'm repeating myself, but we wanna preserve what we have out there. We wanna, if people want to reproduce it, that's fine. Again, that's preserving. The last option is, okay, you want something brand new, you tear it down, you build a whole new style. Then you have to get into all of our details, the 23 feet, the amount of shed dormer, et cetera, et cetera. Another thing that's become less restrictive, if you have an attached garage, that can become part of the footprint and can become part of the living area with restrictions to the overall width as measured again parallel to State Highway Route 42, that it can be no wider than the existing house with the attached garage. And also there'll be no upper level allowed on the reclaimed garage area. And then the last thing is this was not in the last ordinance. We're going to allow a combination of accessory buildings into the principal building with restrictions on the overall width of the new building that you can absorb that accessory building into your new house and use it for living space, but it can't be wider than the existing house. And also you wouldn't be allowed to put any living space on the upper level over that reclaimed area. That's kind of a summary. The one thing I didn't say that I wanted to say is our plan committee, we had 5 working sessions, about 2 hours each. So we had 7 people working on this. I think it's pretty thorough, not that it's perfect. Our protected waterfront could have the strictest ordinance in Door County. I think probably people here would probably agree with that, but we're trying to preserve something that really makes Ephraim unique. And what we want to preserve it, we don't want to end up with a bunch of new houses that all look alike either. So we want people to work with what they have, to preserve it, to reproduce it, to keep kind of that wide variety of architecture we have out there, from small houses to bigger houses. So I'm going to quit there. Again, this is just for discussion tonight. It won't go to actually set for public hearing till next month, but comments and questions?
I just would like to clarify one thing, Ken, what you
Please.
said about the intent section.
Yeah.
The language is different, but the intent, what it states, the goal of what protected waterfront zoning district is the same as the original language, but if you compare the two, the language is different.
It is different.
And as to a clarification, that's the only thing I have on based on what you said.
Okay. First from the board, questions?
When you say define or minimize outdoor lighting,
Mhm.
what is your definition?
Of outdoor lighting?
Mhm.
Lights on, the first two houses that we got had, I think one of them had a dozen lighting fixtures all around the outside of the house. And we said, no, we're trying to minimize light, and maybe I should have said down lighting. But what we've came up with is at entrance points where there's a safety consideration, you can have a light. But just to light up the house, we didn't want. And this just applies to protected waterfront.
So the person on the other side of the street can do what you just didn't like.
Correct.
And that would be okay.
Correct. Well, they would just have to live with, everybody on their side of the street would be in the historic district.
I guess instead of limiting lighting, I would look into or suggest that the plan look into lumens. With the way LED lighting and everything is, you could still have numerous lights, but if you said you can only have so many lumens,
Okay.
it doesn't become intrusive, at least in my opinion. The other thing that when I was listening to you, you said you wanted to preserve the look of the protective waterfront. I'm not sure what that look is. And I say that because you can drive down that road and there is no consistent look. There's all kinds of different buildings, different heights. So I don't understand.
Well, I think that's what we're getting is to preserve the variety we have down there. We were a little concerned with our old ordinance that people were just going to tear it down and build the same kind of look of a house, maxing out what they could get. That's why we'd like to have people, we'd like to encourage people to preserve what they have, because all the houses are different down there right now.
Right. So what would happen if somebody came in and they wanted to build a house that looked like the log and chink house that is across from the Ephraim condominiums? You wouldn't want to preserve that look? You wouldn't allow that look?
I'm not saying we wouldn't allow it. Sure, we'd allow it. But
what I'm saying is that what are you trying to preserve? I agree with all these things, but there's no consistent look.
Right. I mean, that's what we really struggle with, is how to define that look. Because it's such a variety. So I guess what we didn't want to happen is they end up, because of our ordinance, all kind of looking alike if everybody tears them down. And it seemed like with the first couple houses, that's what we're getting. And the thing I think we're really trying to preserve is the open waterfront too, for the whole length of it, not just where homes are, but the whole length.
But I mean, if you're allowing reproductions, the view is never going to change,
right?
Because people are going to max out. So we're not really preserving the view of the bay.
Well, what we're trying to do is if we allow people to take an accessory building and meld it in to their existing house and they get this additional living area, but it can be no wider, we just got rid of an obstruction to the bay. We were trying to look at an incentive to make the houses no wider.
Right, and that makes perfect sense. But if you drive through there, there's not many that I can think of off the top of my head that have an accessory building that they're going to be willing to turn into living quarters. I mean, the Price people, you made them make it smaller, that accessory building. So I don't think they're interested in combining that accessory building into their living quarters because they just built it. And then if you look at the Krebs thing, they're not going to convert that separate building.
Right.
So, I mean, I get what you're trying to do, but who's going to do that?
No, there's not that many accessory buildings out there. You're right. You're right. We were just looking for incentives for people to try to keep what they have. And if they're going to change it, to try to make it more open for open viewing. That was the goal. Yes, Carly.
A couple of things. I guess my question is first to Brent, and maybe there isn't an answer to this, but how would these kind of changes change your conversation for some of these recent projects that have come up? Is this something that you, at the first time someone comes to you, you can say, now that we have this hopefully clarified, that you can say, nope, sorry, this actually isn't viable to go on the agenda?
I mean, it's always a challenge with PW because it's always been, it's always been conditional use, which now they, as Ken said, they are making some of these things permitted use, still through the design review process. But again, path being easier, incentivizing working with existing as opposed to incentivizing new construction, which some argued that our previous iterations did. One thing Plan Committee did talk about, and I think it'll handle itself because people are usually very receptive, being owners or contractors, is really pushing for concept reviews before Plan Committee and HPC prior to too much time and energy put into plans. Obviously, you need something, some level of detail to get a decent feedback and knee-jerk reaction from committee on. But no, I think it's on par with the way conversations have been in the past. Probably the only one that'll be a learning curve relative to what guidance I can give is that section 6 that Ken spoke to, that Plan Committee specifically is, giving broad latitude to basically providing a path towards, I don't want to call it an exception, but an opportunity to do a variety of things if they're maintaining the existing building, as it sits. So that would be a biggest challenge is, okay, if someone comes in and what can I double the size? That's probably an easy answer to say, well, you might be stretching it a little far because I think, that's probably outside the bounds. But the rest of it is right on par. And again, I think in past experience, most, like I said, have been receptive to the concept review. I think that'll be a huge piece of this is once they're to the point of they have a general scope, maybe some conceptual drawings, that'll be a huge tool to go forward. So yeah, I don't see an issue.
I guess I'm also just thinking, part of what I thought the motivation of some of this is that we were getting, we being the plan committee,
Yeah.
we're getting these plans that if you look at it, it seemed ridiculous. And there was no chance there was going to be any chance that they would be approved.
Right.
Do we feel that this is going to save time and energy of the plan committee and Brent because this is more clear for people?
That's what our goal was,
Okay.
is to try to make it more understandable to the owner, their architect, to the plan committee too. So we were all on the same page of what we were looking for. And I wanted to bounce something else off. You just said concept review. When it comes to protected waterfront, because the ordinance and the variety, we talked a little bit about, but we never reached a conclusion. Should we require a concept review? So, somebody comes with a whole set of plans, they've invested a lot of money and they want it. And then we're back in one meeting, we're supposed to make a decision, which is really, really hard. I would like to require a concept review. This wouldn't be of the permitted uses, but of the others, that the architect, the owner comes in and we talk about it. And then time isn't wasted in the future of doing a large extent of drawings involving the architecture. Then we can kind of get to it. Some of the things that we had submitted on the first two of those were kind of ridiculous. I'll say they're ridiculous. They were way too big. It was clear they didn't even read our ordinance. I don't know what that was all about.
Yeah.
But I think now we have enough in there that if we get a submittal like that, I would say to Brent, it's like, you can direct them to try again.
Okay.
We don't have to deal with it.
Okay. I guess, and my other thought is there a thought of trying to break it? Like, could we almost use some of these plans that have been submitted and kind of almost put it through the ringer again with these new ordinances to see how that actually plays out for the committee?
I think we did use some of the design
Okay.
features that we saw on these last three and talked about those, and that helped develop the ordinance. And in fact, one of the architects did a really, really nice job of giving us overlays of, here is the existing footprint, here's livable, here's an accessory structure, and then overlaid them so we could see, just because the shapes are different, the comparison and so forth. So that gave us the idea of, that's part of the requirement now when you come in to show us the new versus the original.
I guess my last thought is, and I think it's kind of echoing what Matt was saying, is minimize outdoor lighting. That is pretty nebulous in a lot of ways. So I do wonder if,
Well, I
I
think
get what you're saying.
What the
But-
ordinance actually says, it can only be at access points.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did read that somewhere. Okay.
I think that's what it should, I think that's what it says.
And then, and you mentioned definitions, that's going to be put into 17.09 at the beginning before we get into anything. Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, the last thing I'll say is there's like no width increase and no more total footprint. And then when you look at the definition of footprint, it is total square footage.
Mhm.
It just feels like it's almost confusing in some way. I don't know if there's a way to clarify that. I mean, I get, it took maybe more reading than I would have wanted
Okay.
in my mind.
Would you do me a favor and kind of mark up those areas and send it to me? Because we're going to have another plan committee meeting now in 2 weeks that we can tweak this. How do people feel about requiring a concept review? The board. I mean, that puts extra work, I guess, on Brent and on us, but I would say with one of the houses, we went around for probably 6-8 months before we got there.
The only question I would have, and if the board establishes that as a requirement, then, plan committee has to live with that. We talked about the concept of this concept as a concept. The only question or concern is, we've gone, especially in the historic district, certainly in PW, outlining what constitutes a completed plan set. So that would be the only question. We've had concept meetings in recent where there really wasn't a heck of a lot of information to go off of from a concept. So a part of me would hate to create another level of red tape on, now we have a separate standard for what constitutes a completed concept review meeting. So I guess that's just the working with them. And I guess if we're open to a concept potentially being whatever they want it to be, it could be verbal. Say, here's the existing building, I'm thinking about doing this. Or some might be willing to spend, some money and at least having exterior renderings. But that would be my only concern, is creating another layer there that has to be met. Because if it's not that, then it's really not a whole lot of more work, because I'm already having these conversations with contractors or builders, usually a couple months before it ever sees the light of public meetings.
Maybe we could use the language that we encourage. The village encourages a concept review, and then if people want to take advantage of that, the plan committee would be happy to discuss it with them.
It could also depend on the kind of scale of proposed changes or something like that.
Right.
But
Because
in my,
some might not. have
in my
any.
short time on the plan committee, it seems as though, my impression is that the most successful projects are those that start with a concept review. Does that mean that happens every time? But, not, but I think I agree with Brent. I think it would be maybe tough to require it, but I think we could say encourage it, because I think that does help the owner and the builder grasp what this ordinance is before they spend a lot of money. And I don't think there's any downside to just saying we encourage it.
And again, from my own, sorry, Tim, work level standpoint, again, a proper thorough review of an application takes as much time as it takes. But in the long run, a concept meeting in which they can get knee-jerk reaction and possibly tweak something before it gets to a conditional use, for an example, if that can be done in one meeting as opposed to not making a decision or tabling a conditional use, or they have to come back next meeting, that's then reposting, re-putting it in the paper. So there's a lot of additional administrative time and energies put into multiple conditional use meetings. So I will definitely, regardless of what's put on paper, encourage people to be pursuing concept reviews if necessary.
Other comments?
Regarding concept review, if I'm the owner or the designer, I guess, and coming into it brand new, I'd say, well, what are you looking for? So if you can list the product that you're looking for out of concept at the result at the end of a concept review, then you're accomplishing. Some projects are going to require a lot more time no matter what, but some will require less. But if the owner and designer know these are the benchmarks we have to meet at to say we had a successful concept review and that stage of the project is over. So, what are those? Are there half a dozen or half a dozen line items, or is there a paragraph that defines what you're looking for? Concept review, to me, I'm hearing that go back and forth. Like, yeah, concept review is two really cool words put together, and it can mean any number of things. So,
But I think what Brent was getting at too, he doesn't want to all of a sudden have a definition of a concept review. And it goes against what you're saying.
then,
isn't
yeah,
Isn't it generally a concept review basically is just bringing a project before the committee prior to the time that the owner is an applicant?
Right.
It's really,
You're
basically
not a
everything
formal
before that
applicant
time
at
is a
that time.
concept review.
Right.
Is that-
Yeah.
And we have
accurate?
people that do that for houses built all over Ephraim that want to come and would we
let people know what are those issues in the concept review? What are they? Are they characteristics? Are they design elements? Are they departures from what we are used to seeing?
Yep.
Uh,
And again, usually through
rather
the
specifically.
through the discussion process, it's, these are based on this application. These are the things they're going to be looking at. These are the areas that, are going to throw up a flag of
Mhm.
whatever color that flag might be. So basically, whether it's verbal or on paper by way of plans, the more detail you can provide, the fewer questions there may be. So if the plans are minimal, then be ready to speak to that verbally. So there's really no one size fits all. It depends on the scope of it, maybe like Carly was saying.
As far as having my turn to speak, I'm not very good at waiting, I'm sorry. Ken, I would just like to hear, when the board gave the go-ahead for plan committee to have these meetings, it was my understanding you were trying to better define existing ordinance language to make, to avoid problems that you've had with previous designs. Now, I know, some of that has been talked about, but could you talk about that more directly? Because as far as intent of these meetings, how did you clarify the language, specifically clarify the language so that the next time somebody comes before you for a new, for new construction or, a major change, applicable change, how do the changes you have made to the ordinance as proposed satisfy that, that difficulty?
I think the biggest one is that section 6, 7, and 8, where we give a path that we didn't really have before. The last path was either keep what you have or come with something new, and then you went into the details. Now we're giving several different paths with the idea of preserving, because preservation was always in the intent to preserve existing structures. So we have that. And the other thing I'll say, without going into a lot of them, but the organization is a little different. If you look at 8 now, which is addition modification. So this is somebody that says, okay, I'm not going to keep exactly what I have. I'm not going to reproduce. I either want to make an addition or build a new house or a replacement. Now we went through, we kind of listed general requirements, design criteria, dimensional standards to try to make it clear as you walk through what exactly are we looking for the architect to go through there. So I think the organization is a little cleaner. Obviously, we went from, I think, 2.5 pages to maybe 4.5 pages. So we put more detail in there, but I think the whole idea was so all parties know what we're looking at. We tried not to make it more strict, but we saw some opportunities to loosen some things up and tighten some other things that we think we're creating the opportunity to have this 2-story house, which wasn't what we're looking for.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments? Because this will be back. I don't know if anyone from the audience had a question or comment. Okay, this will be back next month. Thank you. All righty, let's go then to 8E, discussion regarding North Path tree planting. I think with the last meeting, we said to the board, take a look at the proposal. We asked Matt, take it to his committee, physical facilities and utilities, and get back to us. And maybe I'll ask, I know what happened, but so Matt can tell everyone with the last meeting you had.
So we tabled it because we had technical difficulties and we were not able to see the schematics of where the solar bollards were and the proposed area for the trees. In concept, we thought that was a lot of trees to be in that area. So next month, we will come back with a full report.
Okay.
But
Thank
we
you.
did, I will say this, some of those maples in our discussion, we said that those should be as far back as possible from the path, the bigger trees.
I also suggested that the board could look at the exact proposal and give any reactions to help guide Matt and his committee. Does people have comments? Carly?
Yeah, so one thing, none of these trees are native to Wisconsin. That's just one thing I wanted to kind of point out. I know that as a village, we've been trying to do more of the kind of native plantings. So I would say that's something I would look into. One thing, the Sienna Glen maple tree that's being mentioned, kind of again echoing what Matt said. One of the cons that I've seen is that the roots can be very aggressive and can be potentially disruptive or cause damage. So I guess those are my 2 comments. And I said it last time, I would like to see something more visual as well.
Tim, comments on trees?
Really, what Carly just said, and I had said at the last meeting, I'm more interested in native trees for that touch. I'm under the impression we aren't going to get the color and the splash and the visual interest that we would with these the crab apples and whatever else, whatever these trees are. But I would like to see something that sticks with the native, something that isn't exotic, I guess.
Yeah, they're very pretty.
Right. And to your point, we were, until we weren't able to conduct it, but Kentucky coffee tree is native, hackberry, American hornbeam, disease-resistant elm, which Princeton, which we just planted, and the swamp white oak is what we're also considering.
Rick, comments on trees?
I'm fine with going in the native tree direction. I'm just happy that we're talking about this, coordinating this with the solar bollards, which seemed to me to be kind of a obvious thing to do. So that works for me.
Good. Matt, my only comment is, it does seem like a lot of trees. And I don't know, I wasn't moved by crabapples being a village planted, tree in the parkway. I was looking for something maybe a little more in the lines of some of that you mentioned. The trees, I was also thinking of trees that would grow big enough that they wouldn't block the view of the businesses. And I think of crabapple trees, the smaller trees that, we still want to be able to see our businesses back there.
Right, and we did send an email to Mr. Wolf. He wasn't able to attend, which is okay, but he said he would be at the next meeting. Based on also trees that have huge canopies, that also is going to affect the solar bollard in the
Correct.
summer.
Yeah.
So that's why we're trying to coordinate those two.
Good, very good. Okay, thank you. More on that next meeting. Number 9, wastewater. A, discussion and consideration regarding wastewater request to send out an RFP for solar project. And we have in our packet a draft, I would say a rather complete draft of a request for proposal for this. I will introduce it with Brent, and then if Bruce wants to get up and talk a little bit about the draft.
Yeah, it looked like he readied himself for a conversation. All I'll say is, previously both wastewater and green tier, and again, most recently put together recommendations for the board to keep solar on the radar. Most recently at the wastewater meeting was, I guess, a recommendation because I don't think it was a for consideration item, but just to request that wastewater be given the opportunity to send out an RFP to pursue the solar. So shortly after that meeting, I obviously talked to Brad and Karen, but knowing Bruce, both as members of Green Tier and on the wastewater committee, has kind of been a champion of this from day one, just reached out to Bruce and kind of thought it might help facilitate the conversation if we could have something in the packet to supplement this. So I provided Bruce with a couple of RFPs that we've sent out in the past, one for streetscape, and then also the North End Sewer project when that was done, call it 20 years ago. So yeah, as I noted in here, I tremendously thank Bruce for putting this together. Path forward to be determined.
And I would request, Bruce, I hope everybody read it, but rather than going through the RFP, because I think you're well on your way to having a usable RFP, maybe just talk about the process you're looking at here and what the end game is to try to get out of this.
Sure. Yeah. No, thanks for putting me on the agenda tonight in this, because I think it's a very important issue. I happen to be a big fan of solar, and I think it's one of the few great long-term investments the village can make that would actually save the village money for many, many years in the future. And I have no intention of going through that whole, 20-page document or whatever it is. So my feeling and also the feeling both the Green Tier and the Wastewater Committee is that this project kind of got stuck because the consulting engineer said it's not in a biddable form. The plans and specifications are not in a biddable form to do this solar as a standalone project. He estimated some extra money to put it in a biddable form. I don't think there's much of an appetite, at least there wasn't on the two committees that I'm involved in, an appetite to give them any more money to do another design or another plans and specs presentation. So how else can we keep this moving forward? And so our suggestion would be, and I don't know the legality of the rest of this sort of thing, but the village, in my opinion, has gone out for requests for proposal for a number of different things. And this, I think, would fit into that basic format, saying and it would involve some staff time to put an RFP together and maybe a legal opinion. I guess, I don't know, you can all discuss that part of it. But put together an RFP. I think we know how much electricity we use and the time of day and the charges and everything else. So we can provide any prospective bidder to this RFP with the information that they would need to be able to prepare a responsive response to their request for proposal with some staff time. Excuse me, some staff time and some committee time to do that. And my idea of doing this is that we could keep this project moving. There's a little bit of a time aspect to this for the rebate aspect of it. And so I want to keep it going so we don't lose that opportunity. And my opinion, again, of the RFP is it does not place any obligation on the village to do anything. We're asking for proposals to get your ideas on the size and the design and of course the cost of doing a project like this from any number of suppliers that might be interested in doing this. And I would be, along with the committees, again, be happy to work on this and get this done. Again, just from a standpoint of keeping this moving, because I think it's an important part of the project.
Thank you.
Going forward.
I think this would actually, in my wheelhouse, this would be a request for a bid. As opposed to a design, I think we'd be going out to people and they would provide us with a bid of a deliverable of a solar system. We'd have to spec it out. But I think that's what we're going to be looking for, is they would come back to us and give us a number and tell us the performance of this thing.
Right. I'm looking at it sort of in the framework of a design build.
Right. Right.
We're not saying, give us 300 panels of whatever,
Right.
whatever. We're
Right.
saying, here's what we use. We're interested in putting solar on it. You tell us what you think is the best,
Right.
whatever best is, economics, performance, et cetera, the best option that you have for us. And then the village can take a look at it and say, we're interested in one or two of these. We're not interested in any of them. That still remains our option, is which way we proceed from there. But then we have some current information. Right now, we have information on one particular design that's about a year old. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I think it's the amount of money we're investing here. It'd be good to look at a couple of different options, which maybe this are, and call it whatever you would like to. I guess that's, proposal is the word I use, but not stuck on that either way.
Okay. Questions of Bruce or comments?
I think that we should go ahead and have them send out a bid so we can have a better idea as to what this is going to cost us and what we're going to receive from it from an ROI.
Okay. Other comments?
Yeah, I mean, I know that Bruce also represents Green Tier, but I know that we're very supportive of this. It'll give us more specific numbers to work with as opposed to kind of a general idea, and hopefully also plans that might be something that can be used in a grant application as well.
Thank you.
Ditto. Yeah, if it's request for bids, let's get what, 2 or 3 or,
Yes, well, we'll have to, do we have an idea of how many vendors are out there, Bruce?
I had a list of about 6 people in Wisconsin and a couple from Minnesota that seem to have the capabilities, if not the interest, in a project of this size.
Good.
There are many smaller companies that I think this would be too big of a project for them. But like there are a number, we're going to say half a dozen, whether they all respond or not, who knows, but.
I'll take a motion.
Whether it's motion or not, that's definitely on the table.
Yeah.
As far as volunteers and who's going to help, I obviously, I'll be involved. I would think Brad, Bruce, you're in it now. But as far as, if there are any volunteers, trustees, or ideas of who could help put some of the detail in this together, because I think it kind of has to be a little, it's not a task force, it's not a working committee, but I'd like to avoid the committee structure, because unless wastewater is going to have, 5 meetings in the next month, relative to getting it done, I don't think it can work under the wastewater umbrella, or they'd have to have a lot of extra meetings in order to accomplish that.
I mean, it's a physical facility. I'd be willing to have some input on that.
And I can't help myself by not offering. So of course I'll do anything I can to help write the RFP.
I think that's enough people, so I'll keep my hand out. But happy to read anything as well.
Do we call it a task force then?
I wouldn't even saddle it with the task force. I would just say, we've named some people. Brent can get a meeting, coordinate us, and we can get together and do it. I think one meeting and we can have it. You've got a good draft already.
Yeah, I think
It's
Brent,
pretty good.
for the format, and I just made some suggestions on things that would have to change and
Yep.
some things that we would streamline. This was a big project. So like, 5 copies of all of this and everything. We
Yeah.
don't need that. We need a proposal. So
Right.
some of those I think will shake out very quickly.
I agree with you. I don't think it'll take much. I don't think we need a task force. I think we just name some people and who's available.
Yes.
We'll work
In
with
that
you.
case, I will move that the Village of Ephraim, Door County is requesting proposals for the design, supply, construction, installation, startup of a PV solar power system for the Village of Ephraim wastewater treatment plant.
I'll second.
Very nice. Any further discussion? Oh, I better say that was Matt made the motion, Carly seconded, because they're going to be listening to a tape. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye, opposed? Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce, for your work. Now we go to the airport, number 10. Airport. A, discussion and consideration regarding the right of first refusal for hangar A4. I'll take a motion on this.
I move we decline right of first refusal for hangar A4.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay. B, discussion and
Do we want to
consideration.
make sure that that was Tim and Matt
Oh, you're right.
for the record?
Thank you, Tim and Matt. Kim will appreciate that. Actually, it'll be Andrea. B, discussion and consideration regarding the sale of hangar A4 from Mary Hauk to Fabian Wolof? You think Wolof? Wolof?
Yeah.
Okay. At any rate, I'll take a motion.
Tim Nelson, move that the sale of hangar A4 from Mary Hoot to Fabian Wall.
I'll second this as Carly Mulligan.
Yeah, fine. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and C, discussion consideration regarding the lease with Fabian Wolof for hangar A4.
I require and move that the board approve the lease with Fabian Willett for hangar A4.
Second.
And a second by Matt. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, all approved. Any comments on the committee minutes that are included in the board packet? Any new business for next meeting? We'll talk about the trees again.
And I
Hopefully-
would like an update on Moravia Point.
Okay. So new business for next meeting, we've got North Path Trees and Moravia Point. Anything else come to mind right now?
Still would like to talk about trees across from Moravia
We
Point.
did discuss that and the committee wasn't against it. They just recommended that we wait until next year because Justin had mentioned that they have the grass seed or the grass. They wanted to establish that first, but we did discuss a tree on the south end there.
Okay, a tree, one.
Well, a tree that would become rather large eventually.
Multiple trunks. I'm kidding. Okay, okay.
All right, before we get off there, how about a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second, oh, did you get that, Kim? That
Aye,
was
Tim
Kim
Nelson moved to
Nelson. and
adjourn.
Second, Matt.
Second man. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are
Tim
done.
Nelson.
Thank you.